Hey guys, welcome to episode number 3 of Tech LGTM. I am your host Preet along with Shashank and Amol. So, hey guys. Today, guys, we heard you. We got a lot of good positive feedback from the last 2 episodes, and then we decided to continue our journey on this. And we wanted to bank on the couple of topics that we talked about in the last episode and definitely wanted to talk about something very interesting, Unity's IPO. And no better than Amol to actually start and tell us about Unity because of his pioneering experience in the AR VR space. Hey Amol, so why don't you start us off?
Yeah, thanks, Preet. Thanks for the good introduction. Unity is a very special company that I have worked in that particular space for almost few years when I was working on the VR commerce. And we looked into the Unity, we looked into the Unreal Engine, and then a few other competitions. And finally, the Unity has done the IPO, right? After actually being in the business for almost more than 15 years. Something interesting happened in their business model and then how they price their share. They price their share around $52, right? And when the market opened, it jumped to close to $75, which is more than 31% increase.
Yeah.
So
This
what
is
we
actually still better than for the founders. I would say still better than what happened with Snowflake in the last episode. We talked about 111% popping up. That was crazy.
Yeah.
Like I think in this case, I would say the bankers did a good job. They made some money. They didn't actually leave the founder.
And they probably learned from what happened in Snowflake, and they said, "Time to fix our mistakes."
Probably maybe, yeah.
Hey Amol,
Yeah.
before we go into that, can you tell our listeners that what Unity is all about? Like just a quick, short description of what Unity is and why are we even talking about Unity today?
Yeah, so the core product of the Unity is a gaming engine, right? So when you have a developer who is a mobile developer and wants to create a mobile game, then they have a gaming engine, you drag and drop the right assets, and then they have this engine of the physics and then the image rendering, and that makes it very, very easy for any developer to create a quick game for mobile and then launch it. That's why they are very, very famous among the indie developers. Beside that, they have the amazing partnership with some big companies also, like Electronic Arts, Niantic, Ubisoft, and Tencent. Interesting thing is that
Nice.
even the Pokemon Go was launched using the Unity. So very famous.
Pokemon Go.
Yes.
Ah, okay. I know Shashank was a big fan of that. He used to play that. He was so involved when he used to play Pokemon Go. He can name most of
catching
the
those
Pokemon.
Pikachus were the great, man. Everyone was I was walking in New York streets. I mean, it was getting good exercise, and I was just catching up those rare species. And then there were people who news will spread. Okay, you got a rare species in at that particular block in that particular building, and people just rush to that place. So yeah, I mean,
Oh, I remember it was
crazy. It was powered by Unity. That's a good one to know.
Yeah.
Back to stock, actually. Sorry, you were saying how much is the market cap of Unity right now?
Market cap is close to 19 billion based on the recent closing. So
nice.
A decent market cap for the company.
That's cool. That's nice.
One thing interesting to know is that they are still not profitable yet. So their revenue expected in 2020 is close to 750 million. That is about 30% increase year over year.
Also, I think the main revenue, since you mentioned it's a platform for developers creating games and things, so I'm guessing the main revenue might be the developer fees or some kind of stuff. How are they earning money?
Great question. So they have revenue in two parts, right? One is they sell the software in the freemium model. So they have partnership with big companies and they use their pro engine to create the games. That's one thing. And then they also have the consulting part. That's about 50%, 40% of the total revenue there. Plus, the major revenue comes from the ad business. So they have the APIs and the whole ad network to play the ads inside the games. So simple use case is like if you want to
makes sense. Yeah.
You watch an ad. And also they have some analytics API to track the analytics inside the game. Also for the cloud hosting, they have some other services.
Now that you say that, I remember like when I was in Flurry with my co-founder, Flix co-founder Mayank Mishra. We did created a Unity SDK for analytics side of things, and even for some mobile-based ads, if I remember correctly. And I think you can Google Flurry and Unity SDK. You will find some GitHub resources.
Oh, by Flurry?
Yeah.
Ah, interesting.
Did we lost Amol?
Yeah, I think, guys, we lost Amol for a bit, but we can continue, and Amol is probably going to join us back very shortly.
Yeah.
So,
Amol is
yeah,
back.
I think Amol is back. Yeah.
So you mentioned a very good thing about the Flurry SDK. One of the biggest problem that I see in the advertising, especially tracking, is especially in the gaming, is that it's very difficult to track, and also in the AR VR. So when I was building the apps for the AR VR, I did not know where the user is actually looking when they're looking around, right? Because you cannot track the eyes that easily. And I'm talking about 4 or 5 years ago. Now the APIs are there because of the machine learning. In case of normal tracking, like the desktop, you know when the person is actually viewing and then clicking on something, right? Even in mobile. But that becomes even more difficult in the gaming and then also in the AR VR. And having an API is a very, very important thing for the Unity to track that.
Shashank, you have a lot of experience in this ad space. Do you know what kind of CPMs do these guys go with? I mean, mobile ads. I'm definitely on the pricier side, right?
I
Because
think
if
no. I mean,
that's
it depends on like what kind of an app you are. Like Unity, as I'm also it's a platform. They don't decide the CPMs. Like I, as a game developer, will use Unity SDK to monetize and do something there. If there's an ad coming in, then I can actually put a floor about like okay, my CPMs are like CPM is something like images per like how many impressions you get per thousand, like how for 1,000 impression how much that cost. So you can put your floor actually, and Unity SDK will have to honor that. So your fill rate might go down if you put your impression too high, then you're showing less ads. So you have to come with a balance where your fill rate is 100%, close to 100%, so that you can make more money based on volume.
so, it's not going to be something specific for games where you can earn coins and
I mean,
things like
like
that.
Angry Bird can charge like when the Angry Bird was like I'm talking about 10 years back, or
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
nah, Angry Bird was a rage. Then they could have charged any kind of premium actually, because then you know that people are engaging there, and like, Angry Bird is a premium app.
Makes sense.
It depends. If you have already made a brand name, then getting there, you can charge a higher CPMs.
Okay, okay. And Amol,
Right.
talking about Unity's community, what kind of because you said that most of the money that Unity makes is because of the ad revenue. So we are expecting that a lot of developers are onboarded onto Unity. They use this is the number one kind of 3D game development platform. Is that the right thing to say? Is that a right assumption to make?
Yes, I think they are inside the mobile gaming, they have 50% market share, right? That's a huge,
Ah, okay,
very,
okay.
um, fragmented market in general. In the AR VR, which is basically they have 60% market share. And it's also interesting that at one point of time, 2015, in the Facebook internal memo, the Zuckerberg said that they should acquire Unity. Probably they should
Ah,
have done, because that time they were more bullish about the AR VR. Now it might be a little difficult for them to acquire, but still interesting to know that big companies.
no, usually Facebook is very good with stuff like that, right? I mean, they have all the right signals. They have installed all the spyware in most of the apps to figure out which app is working, which app is not working. What
Uh,
happened here?
they haven't installed kind of thing in the app. They can generally what they were generally programs they had like Facebook Atlas. It was more about a secret program where people they were paying money off to the kids or somebody
Teens.
who care about money. They don't care about how much data you are actually taking from them. So yeah, they can see some kind of like okay, what games they are playing more and that kind of stuff, and they can see okay, majority of the games are coming from Unity. Then they
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
So that was for basically, we're talking about the Facebook, the web version, right? Is that still apply for the mobile version?
No,
Like they can
they had in Project Atlas and different where so basically a VPN kind of a software and they used their enterprise license to do that because they cannot list that kind of an app on the App Store. So they kind of so-called abused that enterprise that was supposed to
Google's,
be used
yeah,
by
Google's and Facebook's,
Facebook.
Google's and Apple's policy. like distribution policy, app
Yeah, distribution
distribution.
policy generally enterprise is generally for only for employees only. That okay,
Yeah.
Facebook employees can do it, and they use that as a thing for going finding people and giving them $25 a month or something around that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Basically, it was
interesting.
a full-blown spyware.
Yeah. But
Yeah, I
the
was not
people
aware.
who installed, they knew it. It was on the full disclosure. The people who installed knew that they are installing some kind of a spyware, that it will track and monitor everything. So they had done that, but it was a secret project. Only people who were installing knew that they are doing something like this. So yeah, back to Unity stuff, man.
So
So
I
Amol,
think
what kind of competition are we talking about? Like we talked about Unity, we talked about how much money Unity is making. Like I'm sure, but the market share is big enough for more than one Unity, right? For sure.
Is there any
yes,
competitor for Unity?
yes, there is a competition for Unity, and it's Epic Games, right? The creator
Oh,
of the
yeah,
Fortnite. So
yeah, yeah.
it's very interesting that how the business model for the Epic Games and then Unity stack up. Like Epic Games are known for creating the amazing games like Fortnite, and they make a huge money from that, right? By having the monetization model inside the games itself.
Okay.
Instead of that, for the Unity, they do not make any games. The other creators make games on that particular
So Epic
platform.
Game, like as a developer, I cannot use Epic for anything, right? Epic Games is like they are independent company creating their own games, and I as a developer has no access to Epic kind of whatever they are doing or
The internal platforms,
you
or
have you have access to the Unreal Engine, and many of the
okay.
developers do use that. So like, and Unreal Engine is also known for having amazing rendering engine, right?
Yep.
yeah,
One of the problem is that if I am a game developer and then start with, let's say, Unreal Engine, and which is C++ based, then to switch to Unity, which is C# based, is completely new paradigm. I will have to actually take a humongous task to actually make a shift. Instead, and then also we know that we will discuss more, but the Epic Games having a fight with the Apple for the revenue share. We will discuss that in the second part of this particular podcast. Same thing is not happening with the Unity. Unity has basically very good relationship with Apple and Google both in general.
yeah. Let's
So
see how long is that going to last?
Yeah,
Maybe
I,
when Apple starts wanting a share, a piece of the pie. We'll see. We'll see. Amol. We definitely revisit this.
yeah.
Uh, But
so
Amol, I have a couple of questions on this, right? We talked about a couple of things over here. You mentioned that Epic Games has Unreal Engine. That's also a well-known product, and Fortnite is
Yes.
a byproduct or from that, right? It's probably it uses Unreal Engine. So and Unreal Engine is one of the most profitable games, right? Sorry, Fortnite is one of the most profitable games. So why do you think Unity never went into that direction of actually, yes, they created this amazing platform for anybody to go ahead and it's created, right? But if you look at their revenue that you talked about, is only 750 million at this point of time after being in existence for over 15 years. So wouldn't something like that have also been an interesting move from Unity, where they ended up creating a game?
I think it's an amazing question. And to answer that, we have to understand that how the disruption happens. One of the big companies, you see Uber, even actually Unity is a disruption in the whole gaming space. Most of the uh, gaming engines initially were focused on the AAA games, that means top-notch games for the console. Unity said no. Basically, as the mobile adoption is growing in the early 2000s, they said we will create an engine which is used by the every indie developer. So it should be very easy for them, anyone for creating the mobile games. So they believed in creating a platform, right, where any developer can come and quickly create a game. Instead,
Yeah.
the
I
Epic
think
Games
like
focus
yeah.
on amazing games instead, and they stick with
Okay.
that policy.
Yeah. I
And that is
think that they see like if you look at Unity was launched in 2004, Apple's iPhone was launched in 2007, and I think what happened. This is just my pure circumstantial based assumptions that they were new company that time when the mobile stuff happened, and they were very quick to adapt to the changing market dynamics, and they've really focused on the mobile game development. And these bigger companies, Epic, they were really focused on their as Amol mentioned, like their superior games, they own the game, and these guys were quickly making up platform-based stuff. So, okay, there are enough engineers coming out who are doing iOS and Android game in 2008 that you can actually take on that market, provide developers a tool where they can actually create games, and and now they can beat indirectly the Epic Games or other big game development companies by getting to the force of all the engineers and all the people who are developing the games.
Yeah, I think it's again the classic model of disruption where the big players generally did not care about the small players, right? And Unity started as a small player. They focus on the small developers or indie developers.
Yeah.
And now, slowly, because of the adoption of the mobile, they became so big that it's very difficult to ignore them. Right now, everyone is actually threatened by their engine. So it's a classic example of the in the business the disruption where the incumbent basically the players do not care about the small players and the small market, and that suddenly becomes very big because of the adoption.
Ah, okay. So this actually this can lead into this is a very good segue into what we wanted to talk about, guys. Since Shashank brought up Apple, we wanted to touch base on what Apple is actually doing. Apple and even Google these days, their monopolistic practices. Like,
yeah, that's what happens
so
when you.
Shashank, do you want to start us off with telling us about or telling the listeners what is actually going on and why this is a topic of discussion for us?
Yeah, I think it's a very great topic for discussion, and I think the debate has just started and it should continue because what we are seeing as a developer, as people who are making apps, and we are relying too much on Apple App Store and Google Play Store for our app to be listed, and of course you have to follow their rules because they have created the marketplace. But at what point actually those rules make sense or not make sense, and especially if they themselves are coming up with a competing product, like how do actually there has to be some kind of regulation or some kind of coming to the point where developers should not be handicapped on by the rules created by people rules created by the companies like Apple or Google who are putting their own product out there and forcing you to use their product. Very simple example was there are quite a few news about Epic Games versus Apple recent yesterday or today, I think. It was
Yesterday, yeah, yesterday. Yep.
yesterday. Google pulled away an app, Paytm, from the Google Play Store, and Paytm is people who don't know Paytm, like people not in India. Paytm is one of the largest payment app used in India by mobile payment app, and it's probably the largest. It's probably have the largest market share. And suddenly they were doing some kind of, I mean, of course, they went against some kind of Google policies, and they were showing some gambling app for the. Preet, you know more about it, or?
So actually, what they were trying to do is trying to bring in more users by because cricket is a very big deal in India. So
Yeah,
they were using cricket as a medium to give some kind of scratch cards or coupons.
this was
Uh,
related to the IPL, like the IPL just launched, like, which is like
yeah.
a
So
premium.
you could get some bonus or some cash promotions when you sign up as a new user, and that Google classified that as gambling practices for a financial app.
So
And
Pete, just go.
that's sorry. Go ahead.
Was this basically by the Paytm itself, or they were they doing for the some third party other company, right? This
They
particular
were doing it
coupon.
for themselves. I mean, they were trying to get more users.
So
So
I think like Paytm launched their own fantasy related something, and they were using that for using
For getting that, they were trying to do some promo codes
yeah
using IPL as a base.
app. They were doing it, so that's why Google actually got pissed. I think some industry body also complained to Google, and Google took an quick action, and they removed Paytm from that. So definitely a huge stuff. And
But
if
Google itself is doing that. I mean, Google is doing exactly pretty much what Paytm was doing.
so that's the argument about that. Like, okay, they can, since it's their rules, nobody can actually monitor them what they are doing, and they can change the rules, or they can, like, who's monitoring them actually, like who can implement their own rules on themselves actually. uh
There should be some kind of governance body, right? I mean, this is
And there's
definitely not.
Do
there's
you think
another big point which a Paytm the founder of Paytm, Vijay, brought out a pretty good argument about, like, okay, if you look at India's ecosystem right now, like all of the startup ecosystem, like everything is based on an app-based economy. It's an app-based economy where, like you talk about Zomato, you talk about anything, it's all based on apps. Like, and who's actually controlling that app ecosystem? There are two companies, Apple, and Apple is probably 1% of that, 1% of Indian smartphone market, and 99% is actually Android. And so Google is actually controlling the whole app ecosystem. So I can bet this has just started, and there will be a lot more debates. You will see that Indian government and Indian people will actually start talking about, like, this might be a kind of a national threat or security related issues also, where Google controls majority of the app. They have the powers to actually pull away the apps which can actually be financial fundamentals for Indian economy, and they have way too much control over there. So I don't know, like this doesn't sound good, right? To me, that Google or Apple can have so much control over what, like, decide the whole ecosystem of
Like
startup.
Apple has been notorious with this, right? Apple has. I remember Spotify was one of the first companies that officially launched a lawsuit against Apple. And guys, do you know that what when this all of this happened, they actually created a website, a landing page where called type2playfair.com, where it has a timeline of when Apple was launched, uh, 2004 iOS, then 2007 was when I think iPhone was launched. 2008 was when Spotify was launched, and when App Store was launched. And they have a complete timeline of how their practices changed, how they started introducing, they started forcing these developers to pay over 30% of their total user subscription in the first year itself.
Yeah.
And so,
I've been
and
hearing
Yeah, that's a
about
pretty good site actually. I just opened the Preet, time2playfair.com. So people, if you
yeah,
want, go on time2playfair.com.
yeah, I
it's a
went
pretty nice thing that it's a good insight to what Apple does with not just Spotify, with all the developers, all the companies that are trying to make it big.
Yep, yep.
so Spotify is one. Another example is Paytm. I don't know, Shashank, if you know, was there any disruption that happened in their service, because it's a very important app for the payments in India right now. I think number one app. Was
Yep.
there any disruption in service
So it was
for them?
out of the App Store for 8 hours. I mean, at that point of time, so they couldn't actually get more users at that point of time. So
So
their
it was,
growth, yeah.
it was quickly averted. They had to pull away the feature they had inside the main app, and they probably resubmitted, and it got approved because, I mean, it was of the highest order. I'm sure there were a lot of pressure even on Google actually when they pulled it off. Uh, but I mean, this is just a start. Like, now it actually gives you a hint of that what Google can do actually. What if they start? I mean, they can go beyond this, and they can do. I mean, of course, they have the rules there, but, like, I think they are way too powerful, and there has to be certain kind of regulatory body or some kind of regulation there that they cannot decide on their, like who are did they you have to also look at the process. Like, it's not transparent. Like, what are the internal discussion which went through to come to this in that they will pull away an app. Why they should not? There should be probably an industry body or regulatory body. They should be involved in that. Like what happens in the finance industry. Preet, you have worked on banks. I have worked in banks and in Wall Street, and there all the banks who are actually registered, and there are a lot of regulatory
there's
bodies
a there's a governance body on top, right? Like that that always makes sure
and the
that
federal
what
agents.
is fair play.
Like, I remember, like, when we were running reports for, like, we had to report to quite a few federal agents, and the federal agents will actually be present inside the company in quite a few things they will actually have an oversight of. And right now, if you look at Apple or Google, I don't think there is anything something like that anywhere.
Yeah,
And
they make up rules as they go.
yeah, so there's a bunch of people like us who are working in a company. Let's assume that me and Preet work for Google. We both will talk to each other, and say, okay, I think they have we should just ban this. And probably I'm oversimplifying it probably, but there are humans there who will actually do mistakes.
So
And Shashank, you're absolutely right. Sorry, Amol. What were you saying?
So I'm saying that in 30 years of almost internet history, right, what we see so far, there have been few cases that happened before, like
Yeah.
Microsoft's
Yeah.
dominance, right, and then this Spotify case, and then Paytm case, and we can discuss more about the Epic games also.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Eventually, these these issues happen, and then eventually the case is filed and the case is made. So far, we have not seen any central body, and App Store history is only last 12 to 15 years old, right?
Yeah.
There is much bigger internet history and the app, the internet company history. I think when this kind of body happens, it's going to disrupt or change a lot of things, not only the app store, but it will also impact the, let's say, e-commerce, Amazon and other ones also, right? Because Amazon is doing unfair game also in their particular marketplace.
So,
So
yeah.
definitely we need a central body in general, but is it going to happen? Is it going to be only central towards the app store, or is it going to impact the overall all the internet industry?
So, Amol,
That
I
will be
actually want to break this down in a couple of points that you made. One is definitely fair play policy, where what Shashank was highlighting is the ability to ban an app on their whims and fancies, whether they don't like, whether an app doesn't comply with certain kinds of rules, so pull them out and we'll figure it out later. That's also open to interpretation by the person reviewing that case. The other main problem is the whole revenue uh, part that Apple actually just consumes, like that 30% of all subscription in the first year, and 15% for remainder of the lifetime of the app. So
15%
that is a problem.
for Spotify only after they went on the case. Like,
Yeah,
if you are an indie developer and you have some in-app purchase, there's no discount for you after second year.
it's only 30%, right? It's always 30%.
30% all the life
Yeah.
actually.
So these two main parts, right? They have the control over what kind of like uh, the app life cycle. If you have a well-growing company, you have $1 billion company,
So
but
the
you
other
are
side of
totally
the
at the disposal of Apple.
Yeah, the other side of argument I've heard from people is always like, you should be grateful that they have created a platform and ecosystem, so they rightly deserve that 30%. So, and there are different opinions there. Like, I kind of disagree on that side. Okay, I understand, and if it was a fair practice, that's across 30% across every app. But the biggest problem I have with that is like app companies like Apple and Google come with their own services. Like Apple
Totally.
came, Apple came with their in-app payments. Why, if there was a service out there, I cannot use any other service out there? So how it's actually a fair game for other companies whose livelihood is dependent on in-app payment kind of stuff? They make SDK, they make libraries, or stuff like that, that they can actually compete. They cannot compete with Apple's in-app purchases. Like, tell me one competitor who can actually compete with the Apple in-app purchase, because Apple will not approve it. So how is that even a fair competition? It's not a fair market at all, actually. Like, they will always come. Apple will always come back with saying that, okay, you don't like Apple, go for we are not the monopolistic because there is Google. But it's not monopoly, then it's duopoly. Those two people have exactly similar kind of rules in their Play Store. So
so,
I'm not saying
uh,
there's a collusion there, but it seems like I'm not saying it's a collusion, but it could be. Like, if their rules are similar, it's for
Yeah.
us, it's almost like, as a developer, it's almost like a monopolistic market.
You touched an important point, Shashank, over there, but I think we will probably should highlight that a little more. Where take the example of Spotify. Spotify launched with their premium service or whatever their fees was, $12 or $13. 2015, Apple Music launches. They don't pay 30% to Apple, of course not, because it's Apple. That was clear, and they severely undercut Spotify's model
Yeah,
by charging users only $9.99.
yeah.
So you first have you bring developers on, welcome the ideas, charge a premium, a royalty, or Apple tax as Spotify calls it, and then undercut them, use the exact same business model, copy them completely, and
that
end to end, and
so
then say that this is you deserve this because
So
we
remember,
we
like,
gave you a platform.
Tim Cook was there, called up by in some committee, and when he was in front of a house,
Yeah.
and he said like, okay, Apple provides fair game, and I will give you a simple example like how unfair Apple could be. Like you remember like when we were actually launching Flex and our app got rejected.
Oh, Amol, you should
Uh,
hear this. This is something that has happened to us. I mean,
So our app got rejected. Flix app got rejected. Why? So we were very curious, like why there's no, we didn't see any reason why it could have got rejected. So it got rejected. So we saw that, and they said, okay, you are providing in-app, you are providing link to purchase content. And what Flix does is actually aggregate all the content on the streaming content, where to watch kind of stuff. So you can actually click on that link, and okay, you can of course purchase and rent that and watch it on your favorite app wherever you want to. So they started actually rejecting it. No, you can not provide any web links to. And I was saying, okay, if I go on Safari, I go on Google, and I say, okay, where can I watch Breaking Bad? I see all those links. How is it that different than this? There were no arguments listened. Then I said,
yeah,
okay,
they don't want to listen.
how about there are few of my competitors like Just Watch, Real Code. There are other competitors out there. I look at their app, and they had somewhat similar stuff. Actually, they were even putting the
Going
price
up,
out there.
yeah, they
And
went
I
beyond
highlighted that,
that.
okay, these guys are exactly doing this, and how is that's totally unfair that you are rejecting my app, but I'm not even directly showing the price. It's just a link towards the content page. It's not linked towards renting or something. Yes, there's a rent button there, a buy button there. Of course, I mean, it's like a search engine kind of stuff. And you can say, okay, this is the homepage of Breaking Bad. This is the homepage of that particular movie. And there are various options where they can buy it. And no, they didn't listen to us. And whenever I bought up, there are other apps which are doing somewhat similar and you have not rejected, they are already approved. They said, oh, we cannot discuss that. This is beyond your, your app is different and their app is different. I said, no, they are my direct competitors. Like how is
You're
that
giving them an edge.
you're
I
giving
mean,
them?
that is, yeah, that's a major
Also,
edge.
unfortunately, I had to pull down those stuff. Like I didn't, my app doesn't has that. So they are getting the unfair advantage, those competitors. And when Apple says it's a fair game, but it depends on exactly. I'm not saying that they deliberately did this for us, but it's also they have like thousands of people who are reviewing apps. Everyone has a different interpretation of what the rules are.
So Shashank, basically, I understand your app was certain feature was rejected, right? So there are some other apps also that those are competitor to your apps. Those are still not that big players. They are decent big players. So what could be the reason that their developers are actually handpicking certain apps, exactly your app, and then selecting certain features are not allowed? What could be the reason behind that? Is it
I,
because there are so many developers that each developer has different interpretation of the rules, or it could be something beyond
Yeah,
that?
So
it could
they're
definitely.
employees actually. Like, everyone has a different interpretation actually. That's what I'm saying now. Like it is not a legal system where you have a judge, a jury, and that couple of people who are arguing about
There's
your.
some kind of a protocol that somebody's following. It's just open up to interpretation.
One person.
It's not black and white. It's totally gray. Like somebody thinks that this is fair. Let me do it.
So I
So
think they go up to like if you are big enough, then they will go up to the manager level kind of stuff. Okay, looks like they are flouting the rules. For us, like when we are first time listing the app, I think even a junior reviewer can actually look at it and say, okay, oh, I'm rejecting it, and then I have to go back and forth. I asked like, okay, I want to talk to your manager, and same thing happened. The manager also said, that, no, this is the rule, and then I cannot approve it. And I mentioned same my competitors, and it was useless actually. So I wanted to focus on
Yeah.
features and other things I can do. And it was a minor setback to us, but it's Apple's world. We are just living it.
And Amol, just to extend on that same point of Apple, I don't know. It's no hatred to Apple guys, but this is just highlighting what we faced and the other things that Apple kind of does. Is we had social logins in our app, right?
Oh yeah,
Like Facebook and Twitter. So ones that people like 99% of the population of the world use, and but Apple comes back and says that if you're using any social login,
that was the second.
Apple login has to be there. Otherwise, your app is not going to be approved.
Yeah. So I mean,
so so
we had
Rejected.
the phone-based sign up. We were introducing new login options. What Preet was telling is, and we got rejected. Why? Because you are not using app sign in with Apple. I said, okay, why is that mandatory? Actually, like people use Facebook and people use Twitter login, and then I have some phone login. They said, no, if you have any kind of social external login options, you will have to use Apple sign-in options. And they forced it actually. Like it became a rule.
Forced it. Yeah.
They
It's
became
part
it
of the
became a rule
policy
in
now.
March 2020,
Yeah.
and we launched in April.
April.
I think in April, and they started enforcing in April and May that going forward, any app which has that, we will actually force them to actually do this.
So it looks like I see two examples here, right? Apple and Google seems like a China of the world in a way, right?
Oh,
If you
controversy.
I'm sure
I
they
hear
will.
controversy.
you have to follow my rules, right? That's one thing. Second thing, analogy I see is that, of course, Amazon. Amazon actually lets a lot of manufacturers come and then sell. And when they see something interesting, it's selling very, very high margin, right? For example, the
Yeah, yeah.
charger. They launch their own product in
Yeah.
that case.
Amazon Basics
Yep.
is all about that, right?
Amazon Basics, yeah.
Threads, they have so many internal companies like that. One thing, if you remember, one thing India actually did very well with Amazon. They said either you can be a marketplace or you can be a vendor. If you are being a vendor and a manufacturer who is selling product, you cannot be a marketplace. There cannot be an overlap. And when I saw that rule being passed in India, I was like really, really happy about that, because that is actually a fair marketplace now. If you're not competing directly with the vendors who are selling, then that's how the marketplace should be. So
That's leveling the playing field, right? Exactly. That you're coming here to do something. Now you want to do everything.
Yeah. So
Yes.
that's the world we live in. So I think like in just on to end, or like in my opinion, next 10 to 12 years, like if we look at what we didn't discuss Microsoft versus the monopolistic case against Microsoft, where Microsoft actually lost the battle and they had to settle down. They were about to be broken up into multiple pieces. That was 2001. Why? Because they were doing somewhat similar actually. Like they were monopolistic. They were covering like 90% plus of the PC market, and they were bundling in Internet Explorer, and they were not letting first of all the manufacturer decide like they remove Internet Explorer or not, or they were not even allowing them to actually install other kind of a browser. So they lost the battle, and they were actually, now when user installs it gives an option. Okay, you can actually install different kind of browsers. At that time it was Netscape. Now it's different, and that's a good compromise, I would say. If Apple is doing their own services inside it, or Google is coming with their own and they're forcing developers to do it, they should make the level playing field. As a developer, I should be using the best, or forget about developer. As a developer, I can have biases. Let people decide.
Yep, totally. Let people decide.
If I'm giving Apple in-app purchase options, why not other in-app purchase options? Let I, as a consumer, decide whether I want to use this service or that service. And then I would say it's a level playing game. Then you're empowering people. You're not, and when they always say that we are empowering people, we are talking about your privacy and everything. Why don't you take the high road then? Then do this. Let's empower people.
It's not even the high road. It's the right thing. I mean,
that's the right thing to do actually. So let's see. I hope in next 5 to 10 years we will see big changes coming there.
So you mentioned about the Microsoft and case, right? So you think that there will be a huge change in next to 5 to 10 years in this particular?
So this problem is we are just scratching the surface. Wait and watch for the next 5 to 10 years. Things will happen. You see, I am seeing all those dots actually. What is happening, especially with TikTok and US government interfering in TikTok, and ByteDance forcing companies to actually sell and all these things. So all the other governments are also looking at this very closely, and they will also think about like who has the real power, and what government generally does is they want to get the power to them rather than giving the power away. Every government, everyone knows they want to keep the power with them. So they will come into the picture, and they will force these companies to change their policies, and they will force once you put the national security stuff there.
Yeah, Shashank, that is a very big topic. That's probably, so we should reserve that for another episode.
Yeah.
But that is very, very interesting. That what role does a government or a state actor play in something like that?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. This was a great discussion, guys.
We did not cover on the Epic Games and the Apple versus Epic Games, the fight which is going on. Every time this fight happens, like we saw with Spotify, some changes happen in the App Store, right? They change some policies.
Yeah,
I
even Spotify did that. Like there were some changes. So yeah, I mean, it has to be. It will be pull and push kind of game. We as a developers we will have to actually voice our opinion, and hopefully, somebody in Apple is listening and they will actually do the right thing.
Let's see. Let's see. But this concludes our episode number 3, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like, subscribe to our channels, to our accounts on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we also have a YouTube channel just in case you guys are interested in watching us during this session. Because a lot of times we also talk about, we had some devices also when last time when Amol was talking about uh, uh, the HoloLens or the Oculus examples. So he kind of demonstrated what they would probably look like, and Shashank was doing his thing with snap glasses. So guys, you should definitely check out our YouTube channel also,
Yep.
and stay tuned till the next episode comes out.
Yeah, we are available on all the podcast channels: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify. You will find us everywhere. So just search for Tech LGTM, and you'll find us there. If not, then let us know. We'll be there. All right, guys.
Take
Bye,
care.
guys.
Bye bye.
Okay, signing off.